8.
You're watching Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to Minute to Skim It. It's pouring cats and dogs here, so it's pretty fun.
It's not here. It's, in fact, while we are 8 inches above our average for rainfall thus far in the year, farmers are like, we need rain.
Well, I should send some to you because we're supposed to get rain all the rest of the week.
We're supposed to get it starting tomorrow.
Oh, great.
But yeah, and then it should stop by Friday. So, yay.
Just getting dogs, 60% chance of cats, Justin says.
I want a remake of Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, where it's 60% chance of cats.
But cats, if they fall, are like kind of stabby.
Well, no, then it's just a documentary about 8 out of 10 cats, the show on the BBC, and we're good.
Can't get mad at cats. It's so funny. I don't know if Kyle will agree. I feel like every single week when we read comics that there seems to be a through line. Like there was a groupthink that was happening and it just all happened to coincide into a week of books. So we'll see what the through line is today. We'll let you guys figure it out.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, Miss Jen, before we get started, there's a documentary you need to watch on Netflix.
Okay.
The Canadian government has a strategic maple syrup reserve. And somebody stole it.
No.
And so there's a documentary investigating the Canadian maple syrup reserve. And one of the guy on the show, on the documentary, I was watching it this afternoon after I finished reading. His title is Big Syrup Lawyer. I would like that to be my new title. Producer Kyle, Big Syrup Lawyer.
Oh, that's the best.
Uh-huh. Between that and watching Dropout TV because it's business research, I've had a pretty good day media-wise.
Guys from Super Troopers had to have done too many contests.
Barlord, just so you know, as reported in Mustache Shenanigans, the guy from Super Troopers book, apparently if you do that, it's basically the same as drinking the stuff before you go for a colonoscopy.
Ew, that stuff is so gross.
Basically the same. All right, let's talk about books, and I will give you a hint. Colonoscopies are not the through line.
Oh, sad face. That would have been funny.
Well, only if Nick wrote them all. Anyway.
This book has probably been really confusing amongst everyone's local comic shops. If this book has been on your comic shop's rack for a couple weeks, it's not their fault. It is its actual release date today. But Marvel's been doing this amazing thing where if they really, really believe in a book and they're worried that people might have ordered under the amount that they really should have, they've been sending little bindles of them to the comic shop and said, here are some reserves for you just in case. The funny thing is that this one came to us like 2 weeks ago. So I just thought, I think I asked somebody and they're like, oh yeah, that thing came out like 2 weeks ago. And I was like, oh, okay. So I put it out on my wall too, not, thinking, oh, dude, I should check on the date. But this makes sense because this was part of that big selection of books that they were talking about that was going to coincide with the new release of all of the cool X-related titles. And remember, despite what anyone on the internet says about relaunches or retcons or any of that kind of stuff, if you have been reading the X titles all the way through the Krakoan era, this just picks up right where all those left off. There's nothing crazy going on here. This one just focuses on very specifically Miss Marvel, who awkwardly is going to school post Krakoa era, where she's excited because the school that she's going to actually teaches mutant kind of titles, kind of classes. And she kind of weirdly runs into another mutant who, I can't remember if this mutant's out or not. I mean, Miss Marvel's not, right? Her secret identity is still secret even from her parents in the comic book continuity, not in the movie continuity. So, she's got like real big fandom for whoever this, it's the blonde that is there on the cover, who's part of a set of quadruplets, I think. Triplets or quadruplets, which are, they use mind control and other things. So this is kind of like a buddy gathering where they're kind of like trying to maneuver through this post-Krakoa world in which muties are supposed to be, laying low, because remember, Miss Marvel died about a year ago, and then they found out that she was half mutant because she came back to life because they used all of that cool technology from Krakoa to bring her back. So this is the very beginning of a gathering of a team. I thought NYX was a person. Nope, this is going to be a team book. And you got all kinds of goodies back there. You can see what the team is going to look like. They do not get along, by the way. There's no actual team formation in this. You just get introduced to the characters. There's no gathering of the whatevers. But they're all kind of like, I don't know. I think most of them are not good. I'm worried about
This isn't Nyx, like where X-23 came from. This is NYX, like the New York X-Men.
You got it.
Stupidest title I've ever heard. Call it X-Men New York. Call it something. Don't call it Nyx and let me think I'm getting a Wolverine book, an X-23 book, and it's not.
Like, seriously, I got to the end of the book and I'm like going, maybe I'm missing something.
No, my LCS is going to be angry when I'm putting this back on the wall because Marvel screwed it up.
Oh, you might like it though. It's good.
No, because there's a bunch of other books I'm going to buy in its place, so they'll make more money anyway, including this one, Berserker Face Full of Bullets, #1. So this is in that Keanu Reeves Berserker universe, but this is written by Jason Aaron. And do you guys know that Johnny Cash song, The Man Comes Around? It's from the American recordings. It's Johnny Cash basically singing about like when judgment comes and there's a man going around taking names. He decides who to free and who to blame.
Oh.
The Berserker is in the American West, and he's living out in like Kansas, Missouri, that area, during the Bleeding Kansas era. And he comes across this woman who is trying to marry an abolitionist, but her father is a slaveholder and doesn't want her to do that. So sends a whole bunch of people to kill a whole bunch of people. And then our main character kills a whole bunch of people. Like all the people that were sent to kill a whole bunch of people, he kills instead. And there's this really great gory scene with a crank-powered Gatling gun.
Ooh.
Right. I will just say, if you're one of those people who goes to Does the Dog Die before they see a movie, maybe avoid this because the horse.
Oh.
But like, watching this guy walk through the bullets while it mows down his horse is still kind of cool. So, real interesting story set in the West. My take on this one is I need this to be a movie in that sort of spaghetti Western style, like yesterday. So fun. Such a good book.
Marvel Zero. Okay, so think about Marvel Zero the same way you think about Marvel Point One, or I remember the other, like every couple of years, Marvel puts out a book which they'll have either one main story, a bunch of interconnected stories, or maybe not even connected, but they always later on you realize that those had a bunch of first appearances, or the things that occur in them are super important to the ongoing part of the universe. This is going to be one of those books. So it has, I think, 4 stories in it, 3 or 4 stories. One of them you don't realize until you're fully into the story. It is definitely connected to the Ultimate Universe. And this one, I believe, has a bit at the end that I don't know is tied to the Marvel Zero part, or if it's just like and also there's other things you need to pay attention to, which deals with the Eddie Brock deal with, I think this is the one that has like the 5 questions that he's, I guess gets to ask the symbiote. But these are all really awesome. Oh, and you get to see that, here's spoiler alert, Jubilee has a new power. What?
I'm trying to think of the 5 questions.
I don't know. That's part of the getting to read it. It's super
What
cool.
is your name? What is your quest? What is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow?
That's got to be it.
I'm trying to think of that too. All right. So this is EC Epitaphs from the Abyss, out from our friends at Oni Press. I'm going to start off caveating this review on a big, massive level. I have been waiting for EC to come back for a year or more since our friend Hunter told us it was coming.
Yep.
Like, I told Jen and Jay way back then, dibs on this. That said, the first volume of this, I'm worried my review is colored by the fact that I built it up so hard in my head that it couldn't possibly live up to the expectations I had.
This is a problem you have.
It's true. Guys, this was freaking amazing. It was everything that when you think about the EC comics that the Comic Book Legal Defense Fund has had to defend, that, you know, the Comics Code tried to put down, all of this stuff. This is it, but with modern sensibilities. Like, it doesn't look like the old EC books. It doesn't read like the old EC books, but it looks like it feels like they never went away. I will say this about it. The big knock I have is that it is an anthology, which they all were, and some of the stories were too short. They didn't really have enough time to develop into something that I would look forward to reading a part 2 of. And that's a problem with a couple of books I had this week, right? I get what you're doing. You're setting up a bunch of stories, but you needed to give some of them an extra page, or, you know, edit them a little tighter or something. But some of them are, I'm going to go to bed tonight and have nightmares about. Like, this was absolutely fantastic. And it's not even my favorite book of the week. But really I'm gonna go deep on this book, by the way, with my LCS. Like, I think I ordered 15 copies. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
All the covers, and then I ordered extra copies so that I could give them away to friends. And it's not even my favorite book of the week this week. So just know, when the EC comes out, I will try to be less, it's EC, it's gonna be, and be more honest with my reviews. But this one, you know, it got away from me a little, and it's great. And shout out to Hunter and the whole gang over at Oni for bringing EC back and bring it back in a great, big, awesome way.
Awesome. This one, you know, Magma's got, I think this is their 4th title that's dropped since they launched as a new brand. I've been excited about all of the different titles. I'm super proud of the company for not going too crazy, too big, too wide. They're just doing great books. They're only keeping They're like, they're not doing more than one in a week. Sometimes there's 2 or 3 weeks in between individual issues. I'm just proud of them. It's, if you're going to start a new company in the middle of like a crazy inflationary period like we're experiencing, you got to be smart about it, right? And they've been really smart. So this one is the exterior art here on the cover is exactly the interior art you're going to see. So it looks like at some point aliens have come to Earth. It doesn't appear that they are ruling over us. They just are merely putting up with us, essentially, is what it looks like. So the two people on the bottom there, the guy and then the mom who's on the far right-hand side of the screen, they own like a dive bar, but it is currently closed for, needs repairs. And these motorcycle gang guys show up, and however much the mom and son say, you guys need to go down the road 90 miles. That's the next available space because all of our food, etc., is hot. It hasn't been heated, but they won't hear of it. So there's a big kerfuffle there, and you get to see what the dynamics are between this alien group, who they're like, we're fine if you like kill each other, but don't touch aliens, and also don't try to make eyeballs at my daughter. So you can kind of see on the cover the entire dynamic of the book, which is that's dad at the top, that's his daughter down at the bottom, who does kind of have flirty eyes for the son whose mom owns the dive bar. So think of redneck problems, but the warring families, one of them is not human. It's great. And the derogatory term that they use for humans is greasers. So they'll help you figure out the title.
I don't get it.
You don't get it, but you love it, right?
No. I don't get it. The first issue was great. Like, it was okay. These skaters are somehow connected to Godzilla. The whole second issue is basically abandoning that plot point. And it's just the skaters are running from the police and the military while Godzilla destroys stuff. Like, it's not like their connection to Godzilla is made stronger or made clearer or cleaned up in any way. It's not even mentioned. And so that's kind of why I don't get it. It's like, did we just forget to put that salient detail into the script? Or is there a reason why? The ending of this book does nothing. The ending of this issue does nothing to sort of fix that problem, right? It's the kids get where they're going and Godzilla gets where it's going. And shock of shocks, if you read the first issue, they're basically the same place. But you don't know why. You have no reason to understand why these kids are running from the cops, and trying to get to where Godzilla is going. And you have no idea why Godzilla is going to that place. And it just to me, this whole issue read like in one of those, in a Godzilla movie where they just put on like Ballroom Blitz, and it's a big smash cut of stuff, and it doesn't work. You got to tell me why we're connected to Godzilla, and then I'm going to care more, because right now it's not.
Wait, hold up. Is Garfwong Lorena?
Mm-hmm.
I see Garfwong.
That's their last name.
Oh, that's so cool. I just think that's the coolest name ever. Okay. Supermassive 2024. I did not get to read this entire book because it is a very long prestige format book, just like last year's Supermassive. So, yay! So just know this combines that whole universe that comprises the supermassive. Gosh, I can't even remember all of them. Is it Radiant Black and Pink and Red? And there's a couple other titles that all go together with this. So this is kind of all the teams interacting for reasons. And I'm sure it would have been, I could have totally figured it out if I really had the time to do this. But since I had to walk back in the rain, I had to pace myself out. So just don't miss this book if you are reading the rest of that universe. You might not get that this is part of it, and your LCS might not know to put it with those books. So grab it up if you're reading all of those things. This is how the cover looks, you're correct.
Oh, every time you talk about supermassive, I hear supermassive black hole stuck in my head. I get supermassive black hole stuck in my head. And now that's going to bother me for hours. Okay. This is the second of 2 anthologies I had this week. Part of me sort of understands why this would be a good time to do this for Dark or for Boom, but part of me is like, this seems ill-timed. You have stories in here, like the very first story, which is written by not one of the names listed on the cover, who's in their name I can't remember. That's really interesting. It has a Children of the Corn vibe. You know, children all of a sudden it's called Contagion, or it's contagious or something like that. But kids are spreading a note or saying things to each other that are causing them to go home and kill their parents. Right, which is a super interesting concept. And you get into that story and it's like, okay, this is dope. And just as you're getting stoked for that story to continue, you move on to the next story and it's something is killing the children. And then you get like 4 pages of something killing the children. And then you get, the actual Hello Darkness short story. And then you get a couple of other short stories. And again, my problem here is that the stories that I liked a lot. I didn't need Something is Killing the Children to sell this book. Right? A short story from Something is Killing the Children doesn't need to be there. And at the same time, huh?
But it's Tinian.
But there are enough other stories that are new content in here that I think if you're going to do a sampler book, which is what I think this was intended to be, now that Boom Studios is in the news, right? I think understanding that Something is Killing the Children is a big deal is important, but it takes away from the new IP that's in this book. Jude Ellison S. Doyle.
Yeah, it's a nice long name.
Yeah, it's a good name. Almost as long as Something is Killing the Children.
Sorry, I should say something about this Rivera cover. I mean, come on.
Yeah. The PDF doesn't do it justice how gorgeous it is.
Oh, it's so pretty.
Right. Like I said, there are stories in here that I'm very excited to read ongoing series about. There are stories in here that, again, they didn't give enough pages to make interesting. Where, again, if you'd have given them another page or page and a half or 2 pages, you could have really had your hooks into me for a lot. But you didn't, and so now you're going to have to sell me on an issue 1 of something else. So that is kind of the thing about this book. It's really good if you've never read Boom Studios to kind of jump in to see what they're doing. Again, this is like a music sampler, right? From a record label that you've never heard of. Like, here's a little bit of everything we do. And that's great. But some of this could have been longer and some of it could have not existed at all.
Preston says, hello, darkness, my old friend.
Hello, darkness, my old friend. Come to talk with you again.
All right, Spawn kills every Spawn. To follow up with Spawn kills everyone and Spawn kills everyone too. This is Spawn kills every Spawn, in which the first part of the book actually shows them killing every Spawn, but then Hard stops and says, oh wait, we got to start this over again. Because I have to tell you why I'm killing every Spawn, because I'm so annoyed. It's so cute because it actually shows him at a convention in which it has, pay attention because there's like a lot of detail on those pages where it actually shows a bunch of different spawns and the big old long lines they have of people waiting to get autographed, including the person right next to him isn't even Spawn. It's a Savage Dragon. He's got a big long line. And the names of the different kinds of spawns are hilarious because not all of them actually exist. They're kind of like, even like, it's not one of them, but just imagine if there's a potato spawn. It's probably had a bigger line than this guy. So anyway, it's, to me, it's like chibi spawn, or, you know, maybe if I Hate Fairyland, a girl came over and joined this for a little while. Just like murdery. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun. This is part one of, it looks like 3 parts or something, 5 parts. So they're going to, I know, I was like, did they consult Henri?
I will say this, the B cover looks like Todd McFarlane doing a really bad Scotty Young impression.
There you go.
And I will say that because Todd could do better. But it's like he didn't really try. And then the third cover is the cover I will buy, which is the blank, because I love getting jam pieces on these.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Anyway, this is a lot of fun. Not for if you're wanting to get really intellectual, but you just want to see many different ways for spawns to get killed.
Teenage Mutant Ninja Shawshank.
Oh, is that a hint?
Yeah. If you read the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Alpha, the Jason Aaron story in that is not dissimilar to this.
Okay.
We find a turtle. I'm not telling you which one, because that's no fun. Incarcerated at San Quentin. After going through what turns out to be some troubles of his own, he is hired by the warden of the prison to come in and kind of clean up some corruption and some gangs and some drugs in the prison. And it starts with him literally stopping a Shawshank-style escape. Like, these guys tunnel through to a sewer, and he's there waiting for them and beats the crap out of them. Which is weird. And he talks a lot about how sewers have always been the sewers even when I lived in them. You know? So it's an interesting take. It's kind of a darker, older turtle story. And there's a murder mystery subplot twist where the Foot Clan have some ninjas that get themselves incarcerated in the prison with the sole purpose of taking some people out. And they pin it on our turtle friend. So, and while that seems like a big spoiler, it's not. If that gives you any indication as to how this book goes, that is very much not as big a spoiler as it sounds. So, you know, maybe check that out. This is the second book I read this week by Jason Aaron.
Mm-hmm.
So when we talk about through lines, Jason Aaron.
By the way, speaking of getting things pinned on you, your LCS got a bag of these. You should connect with them to find out how they are getting them to you. If there's some hoop to jump through, or if you just have to say, hey, remember me, who's given you lots of money over the years? Can I please have one? There'll be a new one for the first 4 books, I think. I don't know if they're different colors or not, because you remember the original Turtles only had this one color mask. So
they are different colors, but they're also different masks.
Sweet.
I can't tell you how I know that.
It's okay. It's okay for it to be a secret. Okay. I will tell you that I read the first of the Nice House by the Lake, but did not finish the series just because I'm always reading number 1s, etc. for review, and sometimes don't get to go all the way through the end of a series. So I don't know how that one ended. So I can't tell you if it's tied to this one or not. But I can tell you that this one is amazeballs. From what I can tell from reading it, it looks like the people that have been gathered in this house are there. They've been selected because as they introduce the characters, they say 3rd round pick, 1st round pick. And they're all amazing people that have gotten tons of awards, are doctors, like people that you would, if you were to pick people to, like, for example, put in a ship that's going across the stars to repopulate somewhere, it's kind of the people you would pick. But that's not what's happening here, as far as I can tell. They've been picked to all live in this house together, in which they appear to be in charge of what happens there regarding like weather, how they look. It appears that they've been put in an eternal state. They cannot die. I don't know what's going on, but it's super creepy because of it. And I'm so down for wherever this ride is going. This one is just like Awesome Black Labels are. You might consider this, even if you didn't read the first one. I would just tell you can jump in not knowing anything because it's its own thing, I'm pretty sure.
If they write a letter and put it in their mailbox, will Ryan Gosling find it in the future?
It's possible. It's possible. Living Triple B, living large.
Nobody else saw the Lake House? Okay. Uncanny Valley number 4. I love this book so much, I don't want to say anything bad about it. But this is the first book I would call a little weak.
Okay.
In this story. We find out more about what the deal is with the kid. And how he came to exist. And why he is Neo. Basically.
Mm-hmm.
And in this book, you have to remember that if you're plugged into the Matrix, the cartoons are part of the Matrix. And they want young Neo to fix the Matrix, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basically, that's it. You're figuring out more about this kid. You're figuring out more about the relationship between Pecos Pete, legally not Pecos Pete, and this kid's mom. We get our first look at legally not Maleficent. And some of these other legally not certain comic book creatures, like Jack Pumpkinhead. So, again, this is a real fun book. It's everything I like about a comic book. But for the first time in this book, I felt like we had kind of a sit down and catch our breath issue. And I didn't love it. It was just fine. And right, a weak Tony Fleece book is still a good book. This was still super fun. And if you've been enjoying this book, this gives you a lot of detail you need. But I really wanted this to be another roller coaster issue like the last couple have been. And it was like, not. So again, it's an opportunity to catch your breath, but to me, it just felt a little flat. So.
When I first saw the cover to this book, I thought it was like a photo, but it's not. It's actually painted. Isn't that crazy good? It's really pretty.
I honestly thought that was Amanda Waller from the movies.
Nope. Painted cover. Unless they're totally fooling me, that's all painted. Okay, so Absolute Power. If you're not jumped into this storyline yet, please do. Like, just trust the Miss Jen. You will love it. There are 2 books tied to Absolute Power this week. One is the second issue of the, I can't remember the name of the Amazon Task Maker 5 or 7 or whatever it is. And this book. This one is going to try as hard as it can to explain why Amanda Waller is who Amanda Waller is, what happened to her in her past to make her the single-minded, driven, no holds barred, get the F out of my way Amanda Waller that we love. So I will tell you that they're going to try real hard, but also you get to see she's always been a little bit bent. She just really has had tragedy happen in her life, big tragedy, that she's just like other characters that are like doing strafing run, gonna kill all you and anyone that ever had anything to do with anyone that touched anything. That's the way she always felt to me. And this will give you insight into her. This is not an origin in which she's young, by the way. She's a mom of 3 or 4 at this point. So you get to see this cool thing at the very beginning. I'll spoil it. This just a tiny bit for you. There is an experience that happens in her life that coincides with the death of Joe Cool. So someone goes after Joe Cool, right? The person who killed Batman's parents, and nothing happens to them, right? Vigilante, good. Something happens in her family in which they go after somebody in a vigilante fashion, and they get in big trouble. She sees a huge disparity here. I think that's what sets her off. So this is amazeballs. 100% amazing.
Okay.
Woo-hoo!
Flat Top is rubbing out all of the bad guys. See?
I sees him there.
Yeah. See? You are finding out more about, in this issue, we find out a lot more about Dick Tracy's PTSD, which is something that was always sort of alluded to in every previous iteration of Dick Tracy. But when you consider the time in which the character was created and a lot of those stories were written, it wasn't really something that was discussed. But the things Dick Tracy did and saw during the war are having a much bigger effect on this version of Dick Tracy than previous versions of Dick Tracy. And I think that has a lot to do with Alex Segura and Michael Morici, who are writing it, coming from a generation that's maybe a little more emotionally available than previous generations of Dick Tracy writers, and they're handling it really well. This continues to be a pretty straightforward, on-the-nose Dick Tracy storyline. You have, Prune Face and some of these other shoulders and lips and, all of these great villains, and they're all getting knocked off by Flat Top, and you don't know who Flat Top works for, and you don't know who you can trust in the police department, and Dick Tracy's the only man for the job. And it's just great. It's a super simple, super sort of right down the road Dick Tracy story. I will say this, at times it gets a little verbose. His helpers get a little talky at times, when maybe we should just let some panels play out. Miss Jen having her coffee delivered. As I'm out of water and beginning to really, really regret drinking it as fast as I did. Right. I will totally do it for free if someone just gets me the material. But no, this is pretty straightforward. I would just say sometimes it's okay to let a panel breathe, and not have somebody talking all the time.
I will have to say, this is one of those book series that we still have not found the top for. We keep on having people add it even now, and we don't have anything on the rack. This and Space Ghost, we have nothing.
It's true. And, I'm hearing that from a lot of folks about Dick Tracy, that it really is hitting a vein of things that people are looking for nostalgia-wise these days.
Mm-hmm.
It's not It's not Space Ghost or Thundercats or some of these things that are pawing at the 80s. It's pawing at much earlier, simpler storytelling and much earlier, simpler days. These are veterans getting taken advantage of by mobsters. We can all get behind somebody shooting them all with a Tommy gun, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's just simpler, and it seems to work.
There you go.
Sean, being that your only exposure to Dick Tracy is the movie, how is it different than the book? Well, the book is good. I mean, you want to talk about differences. The book is good. The movie is not. You should just jump into the book with number 1, Sean. It gives you all the introduction you need.
Oh yeah. All right, Nemesis. All right, I'm a big fan of everything Mark Millar does, so probably that colors everything that I read of his. I go in with the expectation I'm going to love it, and this is no exception. I don't know any. I am at a loss to tell you where Nemesis came from. I was talking to Kyle about it. I was like, is Nemesis the bad guy against the ambassadors? What universe is Nemesis from in the Millarverse? So maybe it's all connected. But Nemesis is a very bad guy. When we meet him, he is completely paralyzed. His arms don't move. His legs don't move. He can move his mouth. Is essentially all he can do. So you meet him. He's in kind of like this, we'll call it a hospital / prison, in which what you find out about him is that he likes chicken and likes chewing the chicken bones, which later on that'll be a playthrough for stuff that happens. It's not just that he's eating chicken bones. He's like the most evil. I will give you the pitch for this. He is aligned with an ancient evil who has trained him in the past. It appears that they have been living for thousands of years. There's no reason to expect otherwise. And they live underground in New York. But think kind of like Illuminati or something, like seems like it could be like a real deal. Maybe that really is out there. And what he has to promise in order to get fixed again is pretty severe. And he does not give an F. He really is that bad. He's okay with them killing 50 people a day to provide the blood for the blood pit that will allow him to get healed, which is exactly what you see on the front cover there. He bad, y'all.
So Nemesis is just a generic bad guy in the Millar world, but he spun out from Mark Millar trying to sell DC on letting him write a story. What if Batman was a complete and total see you next Tuesday?
I like that description.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm literally reading the Wikipedia here. But yeah, it was originally published by Marvel. Millar got the rights back, obviously, and has kind of turned him into a supervillain that just kind of crosses the entire Millarverse. He has had ties to Kick-Ass in some of the other Millar World books.
So this was part of Icon, right?
Yeah.
That imprint? Okay.
Mm-hmm. Originally, Mark Millar and Steve McNiven.
Awesome. That's why it's awesome. Okay.
Okay, so I got to give a little detail on some of my books here.
Jane legit.
So Dean Hayspiel posted on social media last week that he had some creator-owned stuff that he was putting out on his own. He's either going to kickstart it or put it on Substack or maybe Webtoon. And could some people review it? And so I sent him an email, and actually some friends of Jen and I's from the comic book world reached out to me and goes, dude, you should review this. Someone we both know who is very involved with Webtoon. And I go, absolutely, I love Dean. So I sent him an email, and he sent me 3 books. This is the first of the 3. This is Billy Dogma and Jane Legit. Imagine if Lois and Clark were OnlyFans couple or an OnlyFans couple, like constantly doing it. but both of them had the powers of Superman, like laser eyes and stuff. And when they fought, they caused big problems. And the only way they could fight up is just to bang it out. Like it's a real toxic love relationship. To the point where Billy Dogma literally doesn't have a heart where his heart should be because she has it.
Oh.
Like it's really romantic in that regard. This feels sort of in the vein of some of the underground comics that Dean kind of got his start in. When you think Harvey Pekar, you think some of the Funny Animal Underground stuff. This has a lot of sex in it, but it's also goofily romantic the whole time. You can sleep on the couch, but your heart will be in bed with me kind of jokes, goofy romantic stuff. This is a bunch of short stories in this, and it was really enjoyable. It was very sort of like a fun romp in a semi superhero world. I think what's interesting is that in the first story of this book, when they break up, the whole like world grinds to a halt because they're so revved up for each other that their pheromones invade the entire world, and everybody gets revved up for each other, so nobody goes to work because they're all too busy. So this is super fun, and I really enjoyed this. But you can get this and the other ones through Dean's website, deanhaspiel.com. Or just Google it.
Flash Gordon!
I wanted to read this, but I already had 11 books. So I left this one for Miss Jen.
I think we could have both read it. Okay, so if you're looking for Dr. Hans Zarkov or Ming the Merciless specifically, you are not going to see them in this book, so don't be sad. We meet Flash. He's been captured. He's in kind of an imprisoned situation where he's like strapped down to a table. There is another person strapped to a table in the same spot as him, but he's very, very dead. He's like desiccated dead. And then another prisoner is brought in who used to be like the doctor for, I can't remember, some character that's part of the universe that you might not recognize. So he kind of brings into the prison news about Dale Arden, who is being, according to him, I guess, forced to get married to some other bad, not Ming. So this is all about, this opening episode is all about the seeing Flash be helpless, how information comes to him, and then you get to see him kind of do his thing, right? You can obviously, he's going to escape out of there, but how it happens and what else happens in the prison is just crazy. It's 100% crazy. And there's a huge last page that you're like, what the F just happened? You're going to say it too when you get to the page. I very nearly guarantee it. If you know anything about Flash Gordon at all, you're like, no way.
Okay, so this one is another Dean Haspiel book. This one bumped me a little bit, I'll be honest. This feels like someone who's still holding on to quite a lot of trauma from the early days of COVID. When nobody knew what it was, and everybody was super like picking sides. When it was very much this is a fake thing, or hey, everybody has to mask, everybody has to do this or has to do that, or they should go to jail, versus everybody, hey, let's just be reasonable here. This feels like something that was written from a time when we were all experiencing quite a lot of trauma, and this story reflects it. It does have a good heart at the middle of it, but to me, compared to the other two books by Dean I read, this one just feels like trauma dumping. And it really wasn't for me. If you're into some of that trauma style storytelling, or you like the kind of campily heavy-handed stories from Ahoy, like the one where the police officer has a poop emoji for a head kind of stories, this is definitely for you because it definitely has those makings, and I'd like to see where it goes from this beginning story, because I think it has a lot of potential, especially with the heart, but it just feels a little like, hey man, do you need me to call somebody?
By the way,
4
now
years later.
you made me miss Captain Ginger now. Great Ahoy book. You guys should go find it. Eternal Warriors, Last Ride of the Immortals. Did you know that there are there are siblings that are a part of the Valiant universe? I didn't have all this put together before I talked to Fred Van Lente yesterday for an awesome interview. You should also watch another experience later on. Did you know that Ivan the Time Walker and also Armstrong, also known as Aram, and also the Geomancer are all siblings? What in the world? That's crazy. And also they have a sister. I don't know if the sister existed as a sibling before this, but that's her over there at the very side. So this entire storyline is because I think Ivar comes back and says, wait, there is a problem because there are two parts in time where I have no idea what's going on, but it appears that I've been to both of them. One's the future and one happens exactly during the era of Tombstone, like 2 or 3 weeks after the OK Corral problem. They know that they were there because there were wanted posters with the 3 brothers on them. The sister's not on them. And they don't remember being there at all. So this is them trying to figure out what the heck is going on. And if you're a fan of Tombstone, you will love this book so much. So this is not the Earp Brothers. Nope.
All right. So this is The Red Hook by Dean Haysfield. This one has been out on Webtoon, I believe. This is, again, in that underground kind of Will Eisner, Harvey Pekar, almost a little bit of Art Spiegelman kind of storytelling, traditional sort of underground. You just kind of tell the story and let the people fill in with their imagination the rest of the details. This is that with superheroes. Instead of it being everyday people, it's everyday people, but one of them is kind of a hero in a world where Brooklyn is sentient. The city of Brooklyn, the borough of Brooklyn, is sentient and has broken off from the United States and formed its own island. And it's kind of this utopian place. And this is just, again, I feel like it's a every man but I have powers, or every man but I have responsibilities story. This could be the same thing in my mind if instead of the Red Hook being a hero, a masked hero, it was a cop or a firefighter, right? It has all of that sensibility, except they give him a mask that looks vaguely like a hyena, which I think is cool. And it takes place in this different but not dissimilar world to now. And so this was super fun. Maybe a little heavy, especially compared to like the first 2 books I read. But it definitely had some moments of really good humor, really lightheartedness. And again, the thing that all of the Dean Haysfield stuff has had is just a mountain of heart. It all comes from a really pure place, it feels like. And it's just the stories are being told in a way that is maybe a little bit non-traditional to our current sensibilities. So super fun. Go over and just Google Dean or find him on social media and check out his Substack, his, if he has a Patreon, his website, all of those places. And I know some of it's on Webtoon, so check it out over there.
Okay, so this is actually a cool preview that was sent to us this week through Boom for the new series that Jeff Lemire is releasing called Minor Arcana. Following the main character here, who is going back to her hometown after a failed relationship and pretty much life in the big city, to come home and take care of her mother, who probably has cancer. And I don't use the C word, I don't think, but she has no hair. But it appears like, when you go back to a hometown that is small, everyone knows each other's business and stuff, that this girl's not real down with that. She doesn't like that part about living there or having lived there. She was excited about having escaped out of there. Her mom runs a psychic shop. It's the place that's back behind her there. And the daughter also kind of disapproves of what mom does. She's like, you're just ripping off people their last dime with giving them hope and false information, basically what she says to her mom. But she gets put in a situation in which her mom's too sick to take care of a late arrival customer. It looks like she's come lots and lots of times. So since the customer offers money, she decides she's going to sit down at the table and give her a reading. It has all of the fun quirk of all the Lemire stuff we've ever read before. I love it so much. It feels like coming home. This one's a really great one. I don't know when this releases as a series, but this is a good heads up for telling your LCS you're interested.
All right. So this is book 2 of the writer, Josh Gad. This is more Jewish mythology. Except at this point, we find out who the Green Monster is. So if you're a baseball fan, you know that the wall in left field of Fenway Park is the Green Monster. Turns out that there's more mythology to that, at least that this writer, the dad, made up. And we're finding out more about this universe. I don't have a lot of time to go into this because we're out of time on the show, but I just really want to say, maybe I'll talk about this again next week or in 2 weeks. This was super cool. Super fun story, and it dives into a part of mythology that I don't think gets enough credit. So just make sure you check it out. If you like the first one, or if my sale of the first one was good for you, check this out. Maybe I'll do another little review separately that we can post up on socials. So just check out the writer. Everybody, head over to your local comic shop, comicshoplocator.com, to find out where there's a comic shop nearby to you. Stay tuned for Mint Hunter and Honest Henri at 10 o'clock. Miss Jen will be over on CBSN with books. We will see everybody next time.